Hey everyone, it's Heather with Tropica Exotica, and today I wanted to talk about the heart chakra. So a few years ago, I distinctly remember looking on Pinterest and looking at a pink crystal, and I started to cry. And I remember thinking, okay, this is weird, I don't know what's going on. I don't normally cry at looking at pictures of crystals. But I think that was probably the beginning of what I would call my heart chakra opening. And I thought I would talk a little bit about the heart chakra today. I think it's actually a really important piece of what's going on in our ascension process. But going back to my story, as a Scorpio, I've always been one of these kind of people that although I have a lot of deep emotions, I've always been able to keep a poker face. And I would say the last couple of years I have not been able to really control or contain my emotions, and I have found that I'm just very sensitive emotionally to things that are sad as well as things that are beautiful. And so I've really had to pull myself away from social media and being exposed to things that can be upsetting. And it can also just be things that are emotionally touching. And so recently I have kind of started to connect the dots a little bit about why that heart chakra opening is important and why it's happening. So one of the things that I wanted to recommend people is to get on Sandra Walter's website, and if you subscribe to her newsletter, you can get a ebook that talks about DNA activation. And in this article, she talks about how important the heart chakra activation is as part of our ascension process. So I would really recommend everybody to go and download this because I found it very informative. And if you are having similar experiences where you feel like your heart chakra is really opening, you'll understand why that's important now. So I wanted to recommend that. And to just go into, the heart chakra. So normally when we think of the heart chakra, we always think about the concept of love. But there's a lot of different aspects to this. And one of the things that we want to look at is where, is our heart center flowing or is it not? And so we'll take a look at a few of the reasons why your heart center may not be flowing. So one of the concepts that I wanted to talk about is about self-love. So when it comes to love, you really truly can't love another person until you have your own self-love first. So you can't give away what you don't have. And so that concept of self-love to me has always been somewhat nebulous. And so I kind of look at it as some of the questions that might help frame around this concept is, start looking at yourself and your behavior and your actions and ask, do you allow others to talk down to you? Do you put your own self down? Do you take good care of your physical, spiritual, and emotional bodies? Do you try new things, or do you constantly doubt yourself? And do you have a strong inner critic? So during the spiritual awakening process, I think self-love really becomes part of the central keys that we look at, because we need to understand how we are loving or not loving ourselves. And we need to question, would a person who loves themselves say or not say or do or not do, name any kind of scenario. So I think that, the spiritual awakening process really makes you start looking at that concept of, are you engaging in behavior and self-sabotaging behavior that isn't really about treating yourself with love. And so I would say start to become more conscientious of your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and to start thinking about, are those in alignment with the concept of self-love? I would also say that We have tools to help us with self-love, and some of these are crystals, and I would recommend for that rose quartz, and then rhodochrosite, which I'm wearing a bracelet of rhodochrosite right now. Some of the more natural forms of rhodochrosite, they have a lot of patterning, so you'll see a lot of pink and gray. I have a few examples here, hopefully you can see that. And then the next thing I want to talk about is the concept of releasing heartache. So when it comes to the heart center, we may have painful memories and painful relationships that we've had in the past. And so those can kind of create blocks to the love flow in and out of our heart center. And so some of the things that I would recommend are counseling. I know that I've mentioned this before, but if you have been in a relationship in the past and you have not been able to get over that heartache, or you find yourself constantly dwelling on that relationship, or it's been several years that you've been involved in a relationship, I'd really recommend counseling, because we're not taught how to always navigate our emotions and process those emotions. And life is too short to continue to hold on to things that don't serve. And so counseling is always something that I would recommend. I would always recommend journaling as well. Journaling has been very helpful for me to process emotions. You can also try different energy clearing techniques. Acupuncture is good, and Reiki is really good too. And those would help assist with releasing those emotions. Some of the crystals that I would recommend for releasing heartache are going to be chrysocolla, which I'm wearing a necklace right now. Here's some of the tumbles. It's a greenish, kind of bluish. And if you will remember from some of my previous videos, I talked about the different color of the crystals, that the heart chakra is normally associated with the color green, but also the high heart chakra is associated with the color pink. So when it comes to the heart chakra crystals, you're going to see a combination of pink and green. So another crystal that I would recommend for releasing heartache is going to be kunzite, which is a really, really pretty crystal. I love these. It's a real kind of almost lilac type of pink. And then rhodonite. It's a really pretty crystal. And then moldavite, which I don't have any to show you, but I'm wearing a ring. It's kind of a forest green crystal. And these are very powerful. I had an experience once where I was wearing this and I just started crying. So it really helps release emotions that you may not even be aware of that you have. So just take note of that if you decide to work with moldavite. And then the next concept I want to talk about is the concept of trust. So if you've ever been betrayed by somebody, and of course, if you go through life, you end up having a variety of experiences. And so I personally have experienced that, and I know how painful it can be. It can be difficult to open up and be willing to trust and to open up our hearts again. But I think trust and self-love kind of go hand in hand. And when someone loses our trust, that shouldn't really color our feelings for everybody else that may come down the line in our future. They may have just made a lack in a judgment, or maybe they are not, trustworthy in the end. But you shouldn't really hold that, as your stance going forward, that all people are not trustworthy. You really have to dust yourself off and continue to love yourself and expect the best in others going forward. And I think the main thing that you want to consider when it comes to trust is, if we're not willing to be open, then we can't really connect on that deep soul level with others. That's really important for us as, souls here in the earth realm. We really have to be willing to open up and connect on a deep level, and if you don't have trust, that's going to be really difficult. And so one of the things that I would recommend is this practice called Ho'oponopono. I'm probably mispronouncing that. I've seen it a lot. It's really not something I say all the time. But it's a saying that says, I am sorry, please forgive me, thank you, and I love you. And so I'm going to put that up here real quick in case you want to write that down or look it up. This is something that I would really recommend, that if you're having issues with trust and forgiving somebody, that, you know, try saying that. Hopefully you can see it. Try saying that on a daily basis, several times a day, and see if that helps transmute the negative energy. So this statement, the Ho'oponopono prayer, can really help to transform those emotions and transmute that negative energy. And when it comes to trust issues, for crystal support, I would recommend the crystal chrysoprase. This is a really pretty green and brown crystal. It's one of my favorites. I think they're really, really amazing. So hopefully you can see that. And then the next concept I want to talk about is the concept of loneliness. So even in relationships, we may experience a sense of disconnection from our partner, but ultimately, what is going on when it comes to this concept of loneliness? I think ultimately it boils down to this misperception of our own source-God connection. So I think, you know, we start to forget who we are, we forget our own divinity, and we just forget what wonderful soul beings that we are. And in this fast-paced society, I think that's really easy to do, to, you know, get away and neglect that inner part. And so one of the things that I would really recommend for this concept is to focus on what you do have and not what you don't have. And one of the things that I do is I write in a gratitude journal. And so what I would do is just get up in the morning and just write down 5 things that I'm grateful for. And so, you know, once you start, Shiner, stop. Sorry, my dog is starting to work with some bubble wrap. Stop. Stop. That's enough. He likes the bubble wrap. So some of the things that you can think about are some of the basic things that you probably don't even, you know, you take for granted, such as, you know, having a comfortable bed, having a nice house, some of the physical things that we're able to do to breathe. You know, and I think that once you start focusing on the positive things, that really helps you turn around your focus so that you're not so focused on what you don't have. And that it also helps maybe center you and help ground you into, you know, look, you have a lot of things going on, so you're not going to be as upset and distressed about those things that you don't have. And then, so for loneliness, I would also recommend Snowflake Obsidian. And this is really going to help release thought patterns that don't serve. Snowflake Obsidian is also good for help balancing the body, mind, and soul. So what you can kind of do is just kind of meditate with these, one in each hand, for like maybe a minute or so in the morning. And then finally, how do you increase love? So if you've worked through a lot of your heart issues and you want to just kind of focus on how to increase more love into your life, the spoken word is very powerful, and so I would try practicing positive words of affirmation. You can come up with your own statements, but I'm just naming off a few that I thought of. Love flows into my life easily and effortlessly. I am loved beyond measure. I have more love than I know what to do with. So those are just a few sayings. You can come up with whatever resonates with you the most. You can even write it on your mirror in the morning and make sure that you focus on that and say that. But words are very powerful. They kind of exist out in your environment. So it's very important that if you are going to be speaking, that you say these I am type phrases, because that's going to add another level of bringing that forward into your life. And increasing self-love, I'm always going to refer back to rose quartz. And rose quartz, I would say, you know, you can use rose quartz anywhere. You can wear it, you can put it in your office, your home environment, anywhere that you're physically going to be. Then I would try placing pieces around it, around your environment. And then also, Kundalini is also going to be a good one for increasing love, especially unconditional love. So that's another one that you could work with. And so, how do you use them? What I would do, and what I have done, is I would just get a small little bag and put in a few of the tumbles that I'm going to be working with, and I would keep that in my handbag, and I would just take it with me anywhere I'm going. And then if you know, are working next to a computer, you just want to put that down next to your computer, just, you know, to try to keep those with you. You can always wear them as jewelry, like I've got on necklace, bracelets, and rings. You can also do earrings. You can meditate with the tumbles. You can just hold them, the various ones that you want to work with, while you're meditating. You can also put the specific crystal that you're working with on your heart chakra and then lie down and just stay there and meditate for like 15 minutes or so. And then one other thing that I wanted to recommend is, I think this is a really good book that I would recommend for dealing with some of the heart issues. He has a really great outlook, and I really found this book very helpful. It's Michael Singer's The Untethered Soul. That's one I would recommend. So anyway, I think that's going to be it for today. I just want to say thank you. I appreciate all your, everybody who subscribed. I appreciate all your likes and comments, and stay tuned for my next video. Thanks again. Bye-bye.